So let's start with kind of where everybody's at with their program, what your perspective is. I know this is probably going to be real general to start because we could probably talk about this for an hour, but just kind of 1,000-foot view. When you all enter this time of year, the school year is ending, and you're looking forward to, what can we do before fall hits and fall sports start? I know you've got other sports, probably some of you that you're working with, but again, this is for football coaches specifically, so please keep that in mind. But what is your outlook? What are the things that are kind of the fire at your feet right now as you look into the summer? And maybe we'll start with Coach Crissinger and we'll go from there.
I think one of our main focuses for us, we just got a new head football coach, is trying to reset the mentality of what summer training is. Because last year with COVID, the kids came in after not working out for 2, 3, 4 months and being limited to body weight training, and then trying to get back into it, but being limited with the numbers that we had. So we were only allowed to have 9 in a room with a coach, spread out all around our campus, and then trying to rotate through and get what we need to get done in an effective manner. And then trying to bring it all back together this summer with a little bit bigger training groups and making sure we could set the pace and the tone and the expectations of what we demand from the kids every day.
Right on. Coach Alvarez?
Well, for us, coming out of a COVID year, the most important thing has been to make sure that the standard stays the standard. When it comes to the freshmen that had to come into our program last year in a very unique situation, when it comes to you're a freshman, you show up to the program and it's not normally what we would like it to be. So their experience from last year to this year has been a little different. So our focus is just making sure that everybody understands the standard as we are going into camp. Our big focus this week is on testing. Again, we're putting a new weight room in place. So testing that model out this year with multiple kids, multiple new pieces, making sure that we as a staff have everything in place to make sure that this is as efficient as possible for our guys to come in and train. So yeah, it's been an interesting transition for us just to get this thing rolling and moving in the right direction, taking into consideration that some of these kids have not been in this intense atmosphere because of COVID last year. Mm-hmm. So that's what's kind of a priority right now for us, is have a smooth transition into the summer so we can kind of attack the season with full momentum.
Sure. Right. Well, and it's great that you have install or renovation, coming or going on right now, because none of the other coaches I've talked to right now are kind of in that process. And so, some coaches are telling me like our weight room just got updated 2 years ago and it's rock star, and I wouldn't change a thing, which is great. That's good to have that perspective, because there are things that you got to be mindful of there as well, but I'm sure that'll come in handy as well. And I appreciate.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing, right? Because what we're dealing with is that we built the weight room and put it in place in January, but we haven't had a full football team in it.
Gotcha.
In preparation for a camp, and then having to add all the other pieces that surround summer training. So it's going to be unique and interesting, and we're going to have to test it on the fly. So it's exciting.
Right on. That's awesome. Coach Winkler.
Yeah, so for us, we just our program, we go 4 days a week. We go Monday through Thursday, and this was today was the completion of our first week of summer, which is very exciting. Getting back into summer training, it's the best time of year in my opinion. But like Coach Alvarez is saying, it's an eye opener for some of the kids that were freshmen last year. That wasn't a true off season. We had so many limitations and pieces of equipment we could not use for whatever reason, because people would touch it too much and this and that. So we just didn't use it. Now this year, it's not such a concern. And this is our true full off season now. And this week, our sophomore going into their sophomore years, our kids, quite the eye opener for them. It's fun to watch. It's like, dang, man, this is like serious.
Sure.
So not saying that last year was a piece of cake, but it was nowhere near what it normally is. So this past week was awesome. It was fun, and I've seen a lot of growth in the matter of 4 days. More mentally, obviously, physically, you're not going to see that in 4 days, but it's been fun to see, and it's just I'm looking forward to getting back to more normalcy. We still have some restrictions, but nowhere near as what we dealt with last year. So
Sure. Can I ask a quick follow-up there? Practically speaking, outside of just coaching them up and staying in their grill and letting them know, are there things that you're doing to try and make sure that, I mean, obviously it's going to be kind of a shock to their system, right? Are there practical steps you're taking to make sure that they get it, that it's clicking,
Yeah, definitely. It's the mentality of, I guess that's the right word, but it's just the standard in the weight room is so much. Like last year I had X's on the floor for people to stay 6 feet apart and couldn't move much further than that. Now if you're not jogging somewhere, we don't walk in the weight room. So our sophomores, so our upperclassmen, they've understood it. They've been through it. The sophomores, want to be sophomores, they're not used to me barking at them to get their, moving, get their butts moving in the weight room and this and that. And we're in, big groups. Today, man, we had 89 kids in the weight room for one group, and it's just so much different, and the intensity is so much different. So hopefully that answered that.
Sure. Well, and you guys, please correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like to me that everybody's sort of on the same page with this idea that right now the big goal as you transition into the summer months is to let these young people know what the mentality and standard should be for this off-season program, especially the ones that haven't experienced it before. Like, how can we expect them to live up to it if they don't know exactly what it is that they're getting themselves into? So immediately, got to let them know this is what it is. This is what's expected of you. Am I on track there?
Yeah. Personally, I'm sorry to go on again. But we were very fortunate to deal with that COVID off season because we had 26 seniors that were, 9 seniors that started on the defense. Our quarterback was a 4-year starter senior. We had the leadership. We were very fortunate that if that COVID year was going to hit, it fell on that year. Those kids led. Now going into this year, man, we are so young and we're talented, but we're very young. We're trying to pull the leaders out, right? Because they were set behind the 26 seniors. And now we need them to step up, and that's been the challenge. That's been the fun challenge for us so far. So,
right on. I do want to get to, and I am going to mention later in our conversation here about, developing leadership during these months and what, what that looks like as well. But I want to kind of get the bookend question to the question that we started with. On the back end, when football starts, game 1, let's say, arrives, what are the markers? We'll go in the same order here. What are the markers, the indicators that let you know that your team, again, football specifically, is ready to go, that you were successful? And I know it's never going to be 100%, right? You're never going to, there's no such thing as perfectly ready to go, right? But, what is a success for you by game 1 of the season?
I think besides all the numbers with the 40s and the bench presses and squat numbers, everything we're looking for that, I think the main thing that we're looking for goes back to that mindset, mentality, and finding those leaders like Coach Winkler talked about, because so much of our training was done in really small groups, kind of away from everybody. We had pods they had to work in, so they really weren't allowed to interact with anybody. And I'm really starting to see it now that the school year is just ending for us. We actually started our training on Monday for the summer. But I'm really impressed with some of the seniors that we have coming up and how they're actually starting to lead and set good examples, and they're holding other kids accountable, which they're allowed to do that now. They're actually allowed to interact with kids and kind of get in their face a little bit and make sure that they're doing the right things. I know I know of a good team when we have a solid base like that, where these kids can hold each other accountable and lead the right way and not be afraid to challenge people.
Just as a quick follow-up to that, then I'll turn it over to Coach Alvarez for your thoughts. I wonder if, because of the nature of last year, I mean, you already had leaders in your program, right? I wonder if there's more of an impetus with that frustration for them to take leadership even more so than you've probably seen in years past, to be like, you know what, last year that wasn't what our team is all about, what we're all about. And this year, we're going to let these young bucks know that whatever they experienced last year, it's going to be different. Have you all seen a tendency for your players, going into this summer to be like even more fired up about leadership?
Yeah, I'm starting to see now, like I said, because we were in such small groups, and it was hard for those kids to interact half the time because they're busy getting yelled at for not having their mask up, or they're inside that 6-foot bubble. So even from my standpoint, it was more managing than it was actually leading and interacting with the kids. So that was the hardest part, is you didn't get to develop those relationships like we have in the past, where you get to know the kids and get to make sure you know what makes them tick and makes, that whole thing was out the window. Because if we did have time, we were busy cleaning things, setting up things. So we were COVID friendly at that point. But kids are excited about it now because they can do it. They can interact. They can get in there, push each other.
Right on. Mm-hmm. Anything else to add on that one specific note there?
Well, I think our kids know not to take it for granted anymore. That they're really excited to be back to a normal weight room, and they missed it. So I think they feel a little sense of urgency to get back to what normal is, and the kids going to be their senior years. They had to deal with that, and now they're ready to move forward.
Right on. All right, getting back to that question about what the success by game one looks like, Coach Alvarez, your thoughts?
So, having won state championships in the past in football, I think as a strength coach, you really know when you have a team that can take it all the way, whether it's leadership, whether it's commitment to the program, whether it's attitude, right? You know what that looks like going into the off season, what that looks like going into camp, what that looks like going into your first game. But one of the things that I and as Coach Crissinger said, right, the testing is the testing. And I think that's not as much for my ego, but that's to show our kids that if they commit to a summer program, there's improvements to be made, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally. It pays off to show up. One of the things that we look at because we start camp next week, 4 days of camp, then we go into summer training, and then we go into 2 days at the beginning of August. For us, we try to live it by our values, right? Can you be responsible to your teammates? Can you be loyal to the program, right? Can you be considerate to your fellow teammates, your coaches? So if we can see them improve through the weight room, physically and mentally, and then through this process, we see them lead from the front, sometimes lead from the back, but they show responsibility, loyalty, and consideration to their teammates. I think that lets us know that we have done our job, we're prepared and ready to attack that first game. And that's kind of how I measure it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to get back into the swing of things and, show what we've done this offseason.
Well, and you don't get the physical improvements without all those other things, right? I mean, if they're not showing up and doing all the things that you're talking about on a consistent basis, then, I don't know. I mean, year over year, I'm sure it changes athlete to athlete, right? And there's other factors at play too. You can have a kid that was a rock star and a leader, and then, maybe parents get divorced, or, something crazy happens. And then, you got to kind of start from square one or figure that out. But I mean, they're going to see the improvement, I guess, is my point. And then know, okay, this is why those things were important, right? So being able to show them those numbers seems pretty critical as evidence of, hey, this is why we tell you to trust the process, because the process works, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. Coach Winkler?
Yeah, the numbers, I think they're a big deal for building their confidence, especially in the younger kids. But if they see their max, on bench went up 80 pounds, their squat went up 120 pounds, they're going to take that confidence onto the field, and know they are going to give a heck of a fight against that guy across from them. So I think that's big when it comes to the numbers. That's why I love doing the maxes. We just max, bench and squat. That's it. But they see those numbers, they grow, and like I said, self-confidence and mental toughness. The way I measure, we're ready, victory for the strength coach. Everyone's 100% ready to roll physically, because camps are long, with 2 days, and then this year we're going to have 2 scrimmages. Typically, we do not do 7-on-7s very often, but that's because we had a 4-year starter quarterback. He started since he was a freshman, so our coach knew how to throw the ball to our receivers. We had experienced receiving staff too, so they knew the routes, and he wasn't concerned about that. Now we're trying out new quarterbacks, so he's going to press more 7-on-7s. So can our guys stay up to par and healthy through the scrimmages, through the 7-on-7s, and just through the training alone and practice. So if we're 100%, we're 100% ready to roll. And then that gives me confidence that we're going to be ready to roll on the field if we're all out there and not nobody standing on the sideline with whatever, holding water bottles. So that's for me.
Right on. Well, I want to ask a quick follow-up too, and we'll go in the same pattern again here. Just to add to that one specific layer, because I know this is going to be on top of mind for all coaches, and that's injury prevention, health. Obviously things are going to happen. We all know that. You can do everything right, and kids are still going to get hurt. It's unfortunate, but it's the kind of the nature of the beast, right? Can you even have a metric in place that says, we're doing things the right way? Obviously you got to kind of look at each situation on an individual basis and look at what you could have done, right? But, are there indicators or markers from a health standpoint? Are you evaluating that, by the end of the summer to see, where you guys are at?
Yeah, we do a video analysis of our athletes and their running. We have certain indicators and points that we look for in those video analysis to make sure they're moving the way that we want them to move. And then based on their score, I can actually rate them as a risk factor for an ACL or a Achilles tear, any type of non-contact type of injury like that. I talked to one of our volleyball players about that. We went through her video. She was not working out, didn't train, but I was able to assess her video. And I told her Tuesday morning last week, I said, if I was your parent, I would not let you play volleyball tonight. I wouldn't let you go because you're not where you need to be. You've had the opportunities to go do the work to fix it, and it's not there. And she went to practice that night and tore her ACL. It was very evident based off the video that it was just a matter of time. I didn't expect it to happen within 10 hours, but it's a pretty clear indicator when you look at the video that we look at and how we break it down. It gives us some pretty good data.
That's a great reminder just in general. What strength and conditioning coach worth his salt is going to come in here and not talk about the importance of, the fundamentals of movement, right? That's where it's, especially at the high school level, it's got to start there, right? And that's an awesome reminder. Yeah, that's good stuff. I appreciate it. Coach Alvarez?
Well, the way I keep it in front of me is the daily injury report, right? It gets assessed every day. A trainer comes in with the list. We look at the list. There's tweaks, whatever it might be. We attack it with resets or mobility work, but it's a daily assessment, right? And if we're doing our job right, you should see very little, if anything, pulls or tears in the summer. Come the season, right? You prepare for the volume and the intensity and the density of the work, and you manage that load every day. But for me, I get an injury report every day, and that kind of lets me know where we stand with every single one of our athletes. So that communication with the trainer is critical, right? It's the ability to communicate well, to understand who the players are, what the program is, if there's a prehab routine, if there's a rehab routine, if there's a surgery in place, it's just constant communication. So the easiest way for us to stay in front of any injury is to have all hands on deck and constant communicating and being cohesive.
Right on. Awesome.
Yeah, we're very similar to that with Coach Alvarez just spoke about, but monitoring recovery tactics as well, tracking recovery. Are our guys doing what they need to do when we're not around them and go home with them? Are they eating properly? Are they sleeping properly? Are they icing what they need to ice? Are they stretching what they need to stretch? Getting not just sleeping properly, but an adequate amount of time. So tracking and educating them on a very, just like what Coach just said, regular daily basis, making sure they are taking care of their bodies the way they need to do it so they can stay as healthy as possible. So tracking their recovery, I feel is important for us.
Yeah, and following up on that, I think as coaches, even from the head coach perspective, I mean, there's moments throughout the day, especially when we break the leave and there's a huddle, there's always that constant reminder, right? Hydrate, eat properly, rest. Here are some strategies. And every day you try to attack one specific strategy. And as well, we do RPE every day during camp. So that allows us to know if the intensity and the volume is too high and we need to ramp it up. So again, communication among staff members is critical, even at this level more than anything.
Right on. So I have a bunch of stuff that kind of goes hand in hand here when it comes to, I guess, the physical space of your weight room, your equipment and the space itself. And
yeah, we were not all Hoban. We're not all Hoban, man.
Got the Cadillac on the call with us here, huh?
We all want to be Hoban.
Right on. Well, and that's great though. I mean, that different perspective is helpful. I mean, maybe it's not great for you guys. It's great for Coach Winkler, but it's great for our readers to get a different perspective.
Sets the tone.
And I don't want to throw too much at y'all, but at the same time, like, the nature of this beast is, I know y'all don't have 2 hours to discuss this. So I just kind of want to open the floor and throw, some of the things that we're thinking, some of the things that I'm hearing from other coaches out there and kind of get your reaction to it, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, maybe we'll start with Coach Winkler and go in reverse. You're still going to be the middle child, Coach Alvarez. Sorry.
No problem.
But
no problem.
I think that the constant evaluation of, what can you do from a efficiency standpoint, a weight room flow, line of sight, that sort of thing. And I know that one of the trends is, a lot of coaches love, this is your rack. You're going to be at this rack. You're going to do everything at that rack. Not everybody can make that work because they don't have enough racks, right? And then maybe that opens the discussion for how you're grouping athletes to move them through the workouts as well. That's part of it. But, as you think about your specific weight room, give me what do you like about it that makes it more efficient and getting athletes to the workouts? If that ties into something from COVID, as far as like, I learned this lesson, this is a better way of doing things because you were forced to be more restrictive, then great. And if it doesn't, that's fine too. But starting with Coach Winkler, again, I know this is really general, but what are the things that you like about the physical space, weight room flow, that sort of thing? Yeah.
So I am fortunate with a rather decent size, rather large weight room. We have 10 combo racks, so 20 total racks. 10 of those racks are dedicated to lower body training, plyometrics, Olympics, and the other 10 are dedicated to upper body training. As well, I have a separate room where I have one rack in there where I have to utilize this year as well. So 21 total racks, and I do group our guys. Their groups are posted. They know exactly who they're supposed to be working out with. There's different dynamics that go into that, whether it's, I want all the defense linemen together, all the offense linemen together, quarterbacks. I have a quarterback group with 4 guys. We are training in 4-man groups right now. So like I said, 21 racks, each rack has 21 guys. And then I also have a group that are just utilizing our dumbbells, just because I do not have enough rack space. And that's just one of two of my football groups. Right now we have a record high for Hoban. We have 132 kids. And that's including the incoming 8th graders. So they're at a separate time slot. There's a few sophomores and all the incoming freshmen. They're at a separate time slot. But as far as the 21 groups with the few that are doing dumbbells, they're all groups. Like I said, whether it be because of position or leadership, maybe I have really talented kids that really they aren't mature enough yet. They'll go with my top leader if they are very similar, or if they're somewhat similar in strength and ability. I try to pair up that way is a lot. I use my quarterback from last year, man. That's my guy. That's the guy I would throw every talented, troubled kid that just went through the motions. He would go with our quarterback, and he would handle him, train him up, and by the end of the offseason, he was my assistant coach as well. As well as our quarterback. So I'm missing him for sure. But I pair up for many different reasons, but there's always a reason behind it. So flow of the weight room, our bigs, I separate our group, the big group, I separate by bigs and skill. And when I say big, that's big skill, bigs, so linebackers, fullbacks, tight ends, along with the offensive and defensive linemen. And then our skill guys will be the quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, DBs. So let's say we go for a 4-day split, 2 upper, 2 lower. And say our linemen are on their upper day, that'll be the skill are on their lower day. So they're on the lower body racks while the bigs are on the upper body racks. And then the following day, say that's Monday, so Tuesday they'll flip. And it flows really, really well. So the guys that are doing lower body, we start out actually on the field doing agility work before they come up and do their lower body training. While that's going on, the bigs will be up here. They already started lifting their upper body. When they complete the lift, we'll head down and do some distance interval sprints, some maybe half gassers, whatever it may be distance wise. Then the next day they'll flip with the volumes. The flow it took some trial and error, but this is my 7th year at Hoban, and that seems to have worked the best with the amount of racks and the amount of kids we have in here. So. Is there anything I can add on to that? Or
I think that's great. It's a great start. Coach Alvarez.
So we are not as big of a program as Coach Winkler has, or probably Coach Perry. So our numbers are not as high. So one of the things we did when we organized this new room, we wanted to make sure that everything we purchased was in 4s, right? So you can kind of flow and manage your efficiency based on the number of racks, pull down low rows, dumbbells, benches, kettlebells. So the way we manage our program is really just based on, we have some key exercises we like to do. We prep them prior, and then we flow based on the 4x4 concept, right? And what that means is that we can have guys on the racks, and you have 8 racks, so you can have 4 doing one specific exercise, the next 4 have another one. You have the pull downs, or you have the rows, you have the kettlebells, you have the dumbbells and the benches. So for us, having been in a program where you did have 100+ kids in a weight room to one where you might have 40, 50 at a time, flow has become more efficient. The programming is simple because we do have probably 85% of our kids are multiple sport athletes. In-season programming is critical for us. So what we've done is we have limited our total exercise menu to like 20, 25 exercises. And that allows us to just work with percentages throughout the year to make sure that they're lifting and are consistent with the exercises in season. So there's not a lot of soreness. So we can go pretty heavy in season with no soreness. So that's kind of how we've been able to create a really simple program that's efficient, allows us to flow, and our kids know exactly what they're supposed to do, whether they're playing football, basketball, baseball. It just allows us to flow really quickly. The lesson that I got from COVID-19 this past year was less is more. right? Which to me, I'm a high work capacity coach where we love to go high work capacity at this level. It helps the joints, it helps the ligaments, the tendons, the muscles. The more work, whether it's a 30-minute warm up to high conditioning levels, to higher number of exercise in the room, I'm high work capacity. So what I learned last year was I don't have to do that anymore, which is crazy because I've been forever in strength and conditioning, but it was a really cool lesson to know, listen, we could do 3 to 4 exercises total in the weight room and still have time to do, because we had to split. We were in pods as well. We can only have so many guys here. So some guys had to condition, some had to do speed, some guys had to do weights. So COVID basically showed me, at least at this level where we're at with this number of kids, is less is more. You can be more efficient, and then we can add more in the back end. So I didn't have to be high work capacity on warm-up, speed, agility, quickness, conditioning, strength. So it was a great lesson, and we've kind of learned quite a bit from it. So it's become more efficient this year for me.
Well, and it meshes nicely with what you're saying about, constantly monitoring the injury report and monitoring load.
Yeah.
Doing the RPE and all of that as well, right? It certainly ties into, making use of kind of quality over quantity type of approach, certainly.
Yeah. No, so it's been great, right? It's been a lot more efficiency, and that's, as a coach, you're always looking to eliminate instead of add. That's how I kind of look at it. That's perfection to me.
Right on. Coach Crissinger?
Our summer setup, we have 9 racks in our weight room. So we're going to have 4 guys at a rack, and we're going to try to group them with 2 linemen in one group upstairs lifting. And then skill guys will be starting off on like a speed workout Monday and Wednesday, and they'll switch. So they'll do about 48 minutes with the lifting, then they'll go downstairs and do their speed work, and the skill guys will come up and lift for that next 48 minutes. We want to get 4 guys in a group just to keep our numbers where they need to be for that weight room. It's probably maxed out for the size weight room that we have. So we're working on getting some more racks in and trying to get some more space opened up in there. But we're a little behind the game in that. I try to group our guys up by strength levels and, more importantly, height. So we don't have our big tall guys squatting with someone that's a foot shorter or whatever. It makes it a lot more difficult for them to get everything set up and change it over very quickly. We're a 4-day split. We have no phones in the weight room this year. Our new coach doesn't want the phones in there. So we usually use Team Builder to manage our weight, all of our weight programs, but we're going to print them out on paper this year so that the kids can stay a little bit more focused. I think the one thing I found, I don't know if it's because of COVID, but our kids are more distracted by their phones this year than they have been in the past 5 or 6 years. It's not even close. They have a really hard time focusing on what they need to do. And I don't know if it's because they were home so long and they had access to their phones during remote learning. They're just used to being distracted with that. So I have no issue with it now because it's become more of a distraction than a help to us right now. But that's how we're going with it.
That's really interesting and makes total sense to me that, more alone time means more phone time probably. And that's a hard habit to break, I'm sure, especially with young people, when that kind of can become their life. So
we're going to break it. We have our rack set up. We have the 4 guys in there. We have 4 main lifts, kind of like Coach Alvarez has, like 4 main things that we're going to do. But with 4 guys in a group, our head coach does not want anybody standing around. So we'll have 3 extra exercises that we're going to do to help build up on some of the weak spots, weak points that they have, and make sure that the things they're doing they're useful. I don't want them wasting time. Everything we do has to have a direct purpose to help. So it's going to be a quick 10 to 12 minutes with this station. We'll rotate through 4 stations in the weight room, and then we'll go down and they'll switch down for the speed or the conditioning circuit that we'll have.
Right on. Awesome. Okay. So I have 2 other things that I'd like to cover real quickly. Does anybody need to jump off? That's fine. No big deal. Are we good on time?
You care if I go grab a bottle of water?
Absolutely. By all means.
I'll be right back.
So, while Coach Winkler is getting some hydration, I'm going to hit up my hydration as well here. Kind of what we've got left to talk about is kind of the budget side of things. I don't know. It's not just budget, but purchasing decisions, inventory process, when to invest in something new, that sort of thing. And then I want to talk a little bit about how you're trying to identify and build leaders in the weight room. Do you incentivize? You know, there's obviously the idea that, you know, you want to get the kids in the weight room as much as possible. That's probably goal number one, as far as, you know, you can't do much for them if they're not showing up, right? Their butts aren't in class every weekday like they normally would be. So there's a little bit of challenge there. So kind of almost like recruiting your own players. I don't know how else to put that, but, you know, making the weight room a destination where they want to be, that kind of ties into that concept as well. But that first concept, you know, budgeting decisions, inventory process. When do you decide to update something? When do you start looking at replacing something? When do you identify, you know, and it's going to be hit or miss as far as each of your individual experiences here, but, you know, when is it time to think big and we need a new facility altogether and that sort of thing, you know?
It's every day.
Right. But I mean,
every day.
Any and all of those are on the table. You know, whatever your experience has been, I'd love to hear about it.
I can start off. We're actually in that process right now where we have a wall right in the middle of our weight room, and it blocks the view across to the other side of the weight room, and they're going to take that out. And I'm pushing for them to they have a lot of, it's like Cybex equipment, like military press, like the machine-based stuff. Trying to press them to get that downstairs into another area that we have, and then open up that whole, the whole weight room, open the whole thing up so we have more racks in there. And there's people that actually want to move and build another weight room downstairs because this one's upstairs. So we're in this whole process now where some people want to move it downstairs, some want to keep it upstairs, and everybody's in a holding pattern right now trying to figure out where we're going to go and what we need. But our class sizes are dictating that we need more space. We probably needed another teacher to help. We have 70 to 80 kids usually before COVID. So we had large class sizes. We have block scheduling, so we have 80 minutes. We only have three main classes a day for those kids to get in. So it's come down to, you know, the needs of what the class sizes are dictating and how many athletes are actually using the weight room, and then our space. So we're getting crunched for space. It's making it really hard to fit the kids in safely. So we're looking at all kinds of options right now, but it's a slow process.
Could I ask real quick, you know, what facilitated the idea of getting rid of the wall? I mean, obviously open things up and make more space, but like, I don't know how long that wall's been there, but something triggered somebody at some point to be like, look, this is silly. Let's get this sucker out of there. How did that process?
It was up there, and the way we had the workout spread out, we have some kids on that other side working out, and I can't see them. So I know from our administrative standpoint, they're like, we don't want a kid lifting weights or doing anything that you can't see what they're doing. So you should be able to see. I should be able to look across that weight room and see what's going on at any point. And it's a major safety issue, and it makes me nervous, especially the type of kids that want to hide behind the wall. Those kids are usually not up to anything good.
Sure. Well, that ties in nicely with something I asked last question about, you know, line of sight. That's kind of where I was going with that, making sure that you can, you know, see everything that's going on and how do you best lay out the room for that and that sort of thing. And obviously having a giant wall in the middle of the room is not ideal.
No.
So right on. Coach Alvarez?
So when it comes to budget, inventory process, getting what you want, expanding facilities, right? So this is my third year here. So initially when you show up, the inventory process probably has to be one of the first things you do, right? Know what you're working with, because no matter what programming you have, if the inventory isn't lined up to your programming, you're not going to have the program you want. So initially, that's the first thing I try to do is the inventory, identify what we have, what we need, what we want. Then from there comes the budget, right? You itemize what it is that needs to be put in this budget that you need resources for. Then you have to go kind of sell your vision and your plan, and then they have to support it. So that's kind of how I look at that process. And Mike has been at the pros as well, right? We had to put capital budgets every year. So we come from the mindset where it's like, this is what we need, right? And I have stories with my AD came in the other day, and you know, you kind of try to coach these people every day as to this is a never ending process. high performance, human performance, taking athletes and maximizing their potential. I can't just have the same racks and same bands and same medicine balls. We're going to use those things up. So it's always about selling your vision, supporting the vision, and then making sure that you plan and you run the play on that vision. But at the same time, having a budget, understanding your inventory, and then making sure that your athletic directors and your chief financial officers understand that, this is an every year thing. It's not stagnant, it's dynamic. We have to continue to support our athletes, support our teachers. So as you go through this process, it's really all about education and having a vision and then putting it on paper and being able to sell it. So that's kind of how I look at budget, inventory, and then getting funds.
Being persistent too.
Yeah, being persistent. And again, I think as strength coaches, we all talk about it. You have to be able to communicate, right? And they have to be able to trust what you're doing. And I know Mike, and I know Mike as well. There's a lot of kids. And I think when athletic directors see the amount of work and the impact we have as coaches every day, they see the value, right? So most of the time, if not all of the time, they're going to try to help you, right? And it's that communication every day where you're kind of like, you have opportunities every day. You see your head of school, you say something. How are you doing? This is what I'm up to, right? I call it almost like the flywheel concept. I see my athletic director. Here's your soccer team. This is what's going on. This is what we need. Go to the next person, the USPA. All right. Parents are like, what do you need? Well, we got this many kids this year. 13 teams are onboarded. I need to buy some more bands. I'll see if I can get in the budget. They'll be like, well, we'll support you. So I call it the flywheel concept, where you're the hub, and then there's all these people surrounding the support of the program that you need to sell your story and what you're doing. And sooner or later, that wheel starts moving by itself. So there is support. You just have to be able to write, you have to be able to speak, and you have to be able to express your vision.
I mean, there's one thing that I've learned, talking to coaches, all the time, year after year. It's that any position in competitive athletics requires you to be a salesman at some level, right? I mean, you're just going to have to sell what you need and what you're doing. And on those same lines, one of the things that I'm hearing a lot is, don't be afraid to shoot for the stars, right? To ask for the moon. Don't ask for what you need, because, if you've got a penny, some organizations are great. Some schools are awesome. And, whatever you need, we're going to find a way to get it for you. And some organizations are like, you know what? We are going to, we view it as our job to make sure that whatever you say you need, that we dial that back to save money and feel like, we can get a pat on the back for cutting the budget, right? So
sometimes administrators at the high school level don't know what they need. It's as simple as that. That's why you hire a strength coach, right? Like, let me show you what it looks like. Let me show you the impact. Let me show you what's possible. And then again, it's all about having a vision and selling that vision. People will support it if they get it. So that's my 2 cents on the whole budgeting, inventory, expanding facilities, growing the field.
Awesome. Great stuff. Coach Winkler?
Yeah, no, that was great. My thing is, everything has an expiration date, everything. And they get all jazzed up about, I said, I bring in about 300 kids through here today, 350, and they get jazzed up about those numbers. And that's a daily basis, and they get all excited about that. That's great. We're utilizing what we have. Well, yeah, we're utilizing the hell out of it, but that's wear and tear. You got to understand, we got to upkeep this as best as we can, and safety first, right? We never want to put our kids at harm. Especially if it's a larger piece of equipment that's being worn too much. So always pointing towards safety and the health of the kids, and again, everything has an expiration date. You just can't build something all of a sudden. So my first couple of years after we built this, never saw a dime again. I did have a budget. I do have a budget, but it's like, wow, I was spoiled, and now I'm an afterthought. We got what we got, but now it was taken. Yeah, you're right about being a salesman and educating people pretty much. for why we need what we need, and the harm that could be done if we don't correct something that needs to be corrected. So it's like Carlo said, it's an every year, every day, every year process. So with whatever it may be, and these equipment companies, man, they keep on getting better and better. They come out with better and better stuff, and you want the state of the art stuff too. 5 years is old when it comes to some of these equipment racks and stuff. So
I mean, you look at an analogy of a car, like it needs tune-up. You're not going to keep the same car after a certain time. You got to change the tires, you got to change the oil, you got to change the wipers. So I think they see a big room, and it's like, we made this investment, but the reality, Mike, and you can tell, even at the pro level, man, the capital budget was every year. You're making improvements every single year because the goal is you got to keep it the right way for liability purposes. So some people might be short-sighted, some people might not understand it, but I think that's on us, the strength coaches, to be better salesmen of our program and what we need to do to support our athletes.
I mean, in a perfect world, you're not going to, like, my background, I was in the Marines. We would get vehicle inspections before a long, holiday weekend or something like that, right? You weren't going out on your Memorial Day weekend, let's say, if you didn't have the right tread on your tires and the oil was changed and your wipers were good. It wasn't like, well, get the tires fixed and we'll let the wipers and the oil slide. No, that's not how it works.
No.
And it should be that way when athletes' safety and, this is what you're telling me you want for the program. This is what I need. It's not up for debate, right? It shouldn't be an either or. Well, if we have to cut corners, we'll cut it here. Again, I know it's not a perfect world. That rarely happens where you're going to get it 100% consistency all the time. But, correct me if I'm wrong, you shouldn't have to, cut back an either or proposition with the administration, right? Educate them and sell that vision like Coach Alvarez.
Sometimes it's just a priority, right? You need to know where you fall on the priority list. I was lucky that I felt right where I needed to be, right? Right place, right time. But with that, I'm building a foundation for the long term. And I think Mike's in the same boat, right? Same place, good place, right place, get this beautiful facility. Now it's up to us to be like, can we be on that top priority list every year? Because it is at this level, it's a priority list. Everybody wants something every year. And it's tough. It's tough for some of the administrators to prioritize because they know the benefit Mike, Winkler, like everybody brings. It's just like, man, there's just all these other priorities that are critical as well. So just being cognizant of that you got to figure out, how do you get to the top of that priority list is critical.
All right. We're going to move on to our last topic real quick. I don't need a dissertation on this one by any means, but I'm just wondering, I know that it's important at some level to keep up with the Joneses. You don't want to it's probably not your primary driving factor, right? But I mean, even at the high school level, having a weight room that the kids are excited to be in pays dividends, right? The competition for their attention is high, if nothing else, right? And also incentivizing them during this time to be there, whatever way. I'm hearing things like, earning the name on the back of their shirt, obviously bigger things like team captains and stuff like that, that's going to come into play. You're not going to, skip workouts and end up getting that C on your chest come, Friday Night Lights. Right. So, I mean, I know there's a broad spectrum there, I guess is what I'm trying to illustrate, but what are each of your thoughts on, incentivizing the weight room, making it a destination, and then on the back end, of course, what you see from that translating to positions of leadership, developing them during the time when, you're really working on getting better and not managing, load game day to game day, right? Obviously that you'll have superstars on the field and you can have superstars that may not never see the field, but they're superstars in the weight room. And that's important too, right? So again, I know I'm throwing a lot at you there, but weight room being a destination, and then how can you incentivize that and help to create leaders during these next several months. And we can start with Coach Crissinger on this one.
Okay. Our new head football coach, he's really big into getting shirts. So he has different shirts and stuff for attendance, commitment to excellence, improvement in the weight room, different things he'll have to get those kids excited with the shirts. We've been doing dog tags this year, so I ordered a bunch of dog tags and a little metal stamping thing, and then whatever lifts we had indicators for, they wanted to hit a certain number on their bench press, a certain number times their body weight. So it wasn't necessarily one number, but whatever it was, times their body weight for the dog tag, or 40-yard dash or whatever. And the kids got pretty pumped up. Like, we had a red tag and a black tag, and the red tag was like the first achievement, and the black tag was like the highest level you can get. So those kids got pretty pumped up about that. And then other than that, just making sure we sat down and talked with each kid about their goals. And then we talked about, the bare minimum things that they need to do on a daily basis to achieve those goals. And if they can't do the bare minimum, then they need to adjust their priorities at that point. So anytime that something's not going their way or they're not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, we just revisit, hey, you wanted this goal and you agreed that you could do these bare minimum things on a daily basis to achieve that. It puts a lot on the kid at that point. So they get refocused really quick and back on track.
Awesome. Let's throw a curveball here and go to Coach Winkler.
Well, kids love t-shirts. Everyone loves t-shirts. When we go to a conference, I'm looking for the vendors to get a t-shirt. I mean, t-shirts are a great thing to go about exciting people. I do something, I call it the SOS award. It goes to like the elite leaders in the weight room, and it's strictly to the weight room. It doesn't matter what their playing time is or what their stats are. It's strictly about the weight room. It's actually, it's a necklace. It's got a weight, it looks like a 45-pound plate. And it has a Bible verse on it, and which we're a Catholic school, so it all ties together. And those are the awards we give to our top dogs. And usually that award is given out the week of our rivalry game and at chapel. And so that's a big deal. Everyone knows it's coming. Everyone wants one, and they work hard for it. But you have to be outstanding. Attendance, vocal, just leading by example, whatever it may be. You need to be the strength coach's dream kid, dream athlete. So you need to do what you need to do. You earn that. So that's a big one for us. Talking just about the weight room alone, we try our best to keep as well. Our weight room is 5 years old. In my opinion, it's a beautiful. I come into work every day with a smile on my face because it's a beautiful weight room, in my opinion. So once we built this facility, and we try to take the best care of it as we can. We clean it all the time, before or after. It looks the same when we leave as it does when we get there. It's spotless, and we take a lot of pride in that. I believe kids love coming to this facility. And I believe we're at 95% of our enrollment. We're right above 800 kids at our school. 95% of the enrollment now are athletes. And I truly feel the weight room has something to do with that. And like I said, we're unprecedented amount of football players. We're 132, I believe, off the top of my head. I counted them today. Said it earlier too. So for us, size-wise, our school is a Division III school in Ohio. We got moved up, better advantage to Division II. We got moved up about 3 or 4 years ago. But for a rather decent size school, smaller, not a huge school like St. X down in Cincinnati, 100 and some kids, that's a lot of football players. We don't have that many helmets, so we're going to be looking for them. So I think the weight room, taking a lot of pride in keeping it and keeping it looking spotless and nice. I think that attracts kids to come in. And we also have muscle milk. Kids get muscle milk after they work. That's an incentive. It honestly is. You think that's silly, but they love getting that muscle milk after they lift. So there's my 2 cents on incentives.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, every little bit counts, right?
Yeah.
Coach Alvarez?
So I mean, the weight room, right? Like we all know the benefits of the weight room, mentally and physically. I think there's two things that the weight room provides, and not as much an incentive as something I give you, but something you feel and you learn and you trust, is that number one, we're trying to grow leaders, right? That's number one. And number two is they have to find a way to work and have pride in what it takes to compete for championships, right? Because at this level, we're in Ohio, right? Ohio, if you're going to play football in Ohio, it is a gauntlet of a schedule, right? It's a gauntlet. So you have to understand that you have to have pride in this process, right? So I have like 5 things that I try to instill every day. Number one, it's a safe zone, right? I don't think nowadays a lot of kids have spaces where they can truly be themselves amongst other, and I'm an all boys school, right? And we were talking about football, where they can be themselves around other boys and become who they are. So this is, to me, is a safe zone where our guys can just have fun, be themselves, get bigger, get stronger, get confidence. Number two, I would say that how we grow leaders is this is a no judgment zone, right? I'm not judging you based on your height or your weight or your talent or your non-talent. So we make sure we say that every year as we have the team meeting. It's like I said, I'm not judging you, right? I'm going to pour into you. The third thing I would say is that kids, once they walk through those doors, the standard is the standard, right? You can't yawn, you can't sit, you can't lean on equipment. We work hard, we spot hard. We love you up, get out, go take care of your mom, hug them up, do your homework, do whatever you got to do socially. The next thing is process over outcome. And I think for us as coaches that have been in this game for a long time, we know you slow cook these kids. So winning and losing for me does not define my impact, and it shouldn't define who we are as a team or a school. But that to me is critical, that we teach our kids that this is a long ass process and it's hard to grind, right? 12 months out of the year, every year, year over year, right? So there's a lot of vulnerability that you have to learn about when you're grinding with the same people year over a 4-year cycle. And then the last one would be is, I think our kids need this more than ever, is we got to speak greatness to them, right? Sometimes I feel like our kids don't understand what they bring to the table because they're more concerned about what other kids think about them, and they don't kind of look at themselves, the lead from the front, and understand that just by showing up consistently and committed to the work and the effort, like, man, that's just positive. So for me, that's a big one. Like, and I've learned that the hard way, right? Because I was at a school like St. X where we had like 330 football players, and we had varsity was 135, freshmen were 120. So there was just a grind and intensity, and you didn't have the time to really get to know the kids as much as you wanted. But in a smaller program, speaking greatness happens in every interaction. And I think where we find ourselves now with all this COVID and the anxiety that these kids have been through over the last year, as coaches, we have to understand that winning and losing is not going to define you, but that these kids need somewhere and someone to speak to them outside of what school is saying. You know, the parents, there's pressure, socially there's pressure, but they need mentors. So when you talk about what does a weight room bring, I think we grow leaders, and I think we have to show them how to take pride in preparing and competing for championships.
Well said. Obviously, I can't thank each of you enough for time today. That's not just something I always stop myself. I'm not going through the motions when I say that. I do sincerely appreciate your time today. We can't do what we do without coaches like you sharing your perspective with us. So just for me personally, I enjoy my job. So thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that this was constructive. I really love this format because you all get to bounce things off of each other, and I get to just kind of be the fly on the wall. So I really appreciate everybody participating today. With that, I won't take up any more of your time. Thanks so much. And obviously, I hope to get a chance to talk to each of you more in the future. So thank you very much.
Man. Thank you for your time. Look forward to reading this stuff.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Yeah, man. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate you guys on the call.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Take care,
All right.
gentlemen.